When people ask me about my channel, they usually ask, do you play Fortnite? When I tell them no, then they ask, well, what kind of games do you play? As if, like, Fortnite's the only game that I really should be playing. This question has often stumped me because, honestly, I don't really know the answer to that. If you watch my channel or know me pretty well, then you know that I play a plethora of games. When I was a kid, I would pretty much play anything, even if I didn't like it. It was just the whole concept of video games that I loved, not any specific games. See, in video games, I can do things that my fat butt in real life can't do. I can jump off of trucks. I can beat people with a shovel. I can play as a duck and shoot my friend. I can snipe 2 guys in the face with 1 bullet. I can play as a girl and rescue aliens. I can throw people off of cliffs. I can get my butt kicked by some giant monster. I can punch a robot and send him flying off of a cliff. I can pretend to be a block and hide from giant turtles. I can play Star Wars without a controller. I'm a Rancor! It wasn't until I was older that I started to not play certain games. Sometimes I wouldn't play a game because it wasn't fun or it looked stupid. Sometimes I didn't play a game because I didn't like the quote mature content. And sometimes I wouldn't play something because the game is absolute trash. So in order to answer the question, what kind of games do I play, I have to explain to you what I like in games, and hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have a basic understanding of what games I play and why. So get your popcorn, get your Doritos, get your Mountain Dew, get your Skittles, it's gonna be a long video. Let's talk about stupid games first. A stupid game for me is one that I do not enjoy because I do not like the content of the game. This doesn't make stupid games bad games because there are plenty of people who enjoy, quote, stupid games. Stupid games are games that are just not really my type. So what are some games I think are stupid? Anime-based games. It doesn't have to have the anime look, just the anime feel. You know what I'm talking about. Storylines that make no sense, shallow conversations that apparently have crucial information, but there's no way that you would know that. Incoherent conversations, really awkward moments that were supposed to be intense or heartfelt that you just didn't get. You put that into a video game and you have successfully turned me off to that game. The worst part is I don't always know what games are going to be like that or not. Like my first experience with Final Fantasy was 13 Part 1. I got this game for like 15 bucks at Walmart because the cover art looked dope as Lemon Hope. On the front, you got this chick standing there with this sick looking blade thing. Turns out in the game, the blade is actually a gun too, which is just so sick. Then on the back cover, you got these cool looking characters with some planet blown up in the background and some giant robot flying things in the background, and I don't even know what's going on. And just look at this picture here. Like, you got the cover girl fighting some ugly dragon looking thing, and I'm like, yeah, I could do this. So I took it home, opened it up. Turns out there were 3 discs in here, man. Like, 3 discs. So now I'm thinking I just stumbled on a gold mine for games. I'm thinking that this is going to be some long, action-packed game where I got to fight these giant monsters and such, and I'm going to love it forever. I popped the first disc into the 360 and was disappointed in like 3 minutes. Turns out the reason there are 3 discs is because this game is basically some weirdo anime-type movie rather than a proper game. There are so many cutscenes in this, which means that the people who play this are way more interested in the story than the actual gameplay. I will give it this though, the music was amazing. And a lot of the cutscenes were so cool. Like, you watch these guys are just racing like vroom vroom meow, and then out of nowhere a guardian from Halo 5 just pops out, and then the cover girl, whose name is Lightning, okay, like the coolest name ever, jumps out of the guardian and summons some giant horse dude, and then the other characters have their own dude things, and they just like have to save this racer, and then everyone sees that they have this gross tattoo on his arm, and they're like, boo, boo, boo. So he just hops on his bike, and they're like, pew, 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 and then some kid jumps in the middle of the road, almost gets kissed by a bike, then the bike gets crushed by some giant robot. Then Lightning is riding a horse, and the horse is actually a transformer and like transforms and throws Lightning onto a bike, and she just hijacks a bike even though she has a transformer horse. And then there's just a whole bunch of action, and then some giant monster jumps down all Gandalf style like, "You shall not pass!" And I'm thinking, if this was a movie that wasn't so dependent on its prequels to be understood, this would be a pretty cool action movie. But the problem is that I bought a game, not a movie. Like, I would rather be the person flinging off of my Transformer horse, landing on a bike to hijack it, than watching someone do it. The other part that I hate about this game was its turn-based combat. Oh my gosh, seriously, I do not like turn-based combat. There are only 2 games that got it right, and so they're off the hook. Taking turns for combat has to be the dumbest way to play a video game. Like, if I wanted to take turns, I would go play chess. You want to know how else you can turn me off to a game? Make me walk to a cutscene from a cutscene. That is probably the dumbest idea anyone has ever come up with in games. There are many games that do this, but I felt like Final Fantasy was the worst at it. Seriously, I would watch some unnecessary cutscene.
There's a way through here!
And then have to walk a little ways with absolutely nothing to do. And then there would be another cutscene. My Final Fantasy is a game with these visual aesthetics without turn-based combat or stupid and frequent cutscenes. There you go, Mama's Final Fantasy, trademarked. It's a shame that this game had to be the way that it is, because it was actually a pretty cool looking game. Sometimes you were in a city or a cave where you just had a set way to go, then other times you were in this vast world with dinosaur type animals. But as cool as it looks, the gameplay is just shallow because this was clearly meant to be some interactive movie or something. Now, I don't want to make it seem like I hate all cutscenes, because I really don't. It's okay for a game to have cutscenes. They just have to be in moderation, and, you know, it'd be nice to have the option of skipping them. Like, I hate the owl in Ocarina. Oh my gosh, he just arbitrarily shows up and starts talking to you, and you can't skip it. Since I've already beaten this game like 6 zillion times, he's giving me no new information. I don't want to have to just sit there and listen to this bird flip his head upside down telling me how to play the game. The funny part about it is that he actually gives the most helpful and straightforward advice than any other character in the game. But when you've beaten Ocarina of Time as much as I have, then he serves no purpose other than to just annoy you. It's like Fi telling you your Wiimote batteries are low when there's an icon at the bottom of the screen that tells me the exact same thing.
Master Link, did you know that you are low on hearts?
Yeah, I heard that beeping.
That was me. I was beeping to let you know about the beeping. Did you know you can replenish hearts by collecting more hearts?
You can't be this stupid.
So it's not so much cutscenes that I despise, because I understand that they're the easiest way to tell important parts of stories while still holding the player's attention, but just don't make it into a movie. Don't tell me unimportant information. And if you do have to tell me unimportant info, then you better make it entertaining. Another stupid game is Fortnite. The whole concept of it is just annoying to me. You're supposed to fall down from some flying bus, destroy buildings and homes, arbitrarily find weapons, build your own fort, and kill the enemy. Actually, when you put it that way, it sounds pretty fun, but it's really not. You parachute in with like 49 other players who play this for like a living, so they know where all the weapon locations are, and how to build, and how to be an absolute jerk. Meanwhile, you're running around like an idiot looking for weapons in all the wrong places, getting shot by enemies you can't see, and just breaking things because that's the only thing you know how to do in that game. Honestly, I just follow my teammates around and loot their corpses for good weapons. There's hardly anything fun about it for me. I would rather play Peggle than Fortnite. My hatred for Fortnite is probably the result of my incompetence rather than anything in the game being wrong. So I guess I don't really have a good reason to hate the game. Moving on, let's talk about mature content in games. When people ask me why I don't like cussing or gore or nudity in video games, I just simply say, I don't know why it needs to be in there. Like seriously, how does making guts fly all over the screen make any game more enjoyable? Some people have said, well, it makes the game more realistic. To which I say, when has that ever been an important trait in a successful video game? In fact, a lot of the more popular games have been based around very unrealistic qualities. Zelda, Mario, Fortnite, Super Smash Bros., Star Wars, Overwatch, these are all games that have had major success with little to no cussing, gore, or nudity, and are actually very unrealistic. I don't see why shooting someone has to cause blood to splat everywhere. You can make shooters without blood. The point I'm trying to make is not that mature content is bad, that's an entirely different conversation. My point is that you can have really good games without mature content, so what's the point in having it? Obviously it boils down to preference, so if you prefer mature content, then more power to you, man. For me, I'd rather play a game without it. It's a shame that most games nowadays have mature content. It kinda ruins the whole game for me. Like, let's use Tomb Raider as an example. I've beaten Legends, Underworld, the new Definitive Edition, and Rise of the Tomb Raider. I have some major reservations on all of these games, but let's start with the older games. Legends and Underworld have pretty much the same mechanics and controls with different stories. Both have some pretty cool parts in them. Like at one point you're running through a sinking ship and the wall suddenly becomes the floor. There's a part where you're driving a motorcycle in the snow chasing a train and shooting bad guys. There's another motorcycle part where you have to jump from roof to roof on a motorcycle. There are definitely some pretty cool moments in these games. But for me, the novelty was just lost on the horrible controls and non-user-friendly environment. Lara in these games is just so clunky. Like sometimes you have to try and jump to something and she doesn't even grab the rope or the ledge that you needed to grab, so you have to climb all the way back up there just to try again, miss the rope, and start the whole thing over again. Combat is so rigid since Lara locks onto enemies, so you don't really have good camera control in combat, so you'll just be fighting and just get stuck on something that you can't see. You spend a lot of the time in dimly lit caves and tombs, so the ledges that you're supposed to grab, you can't even really see. Sometimes Lara can't even climb up onto a ledge for no apparent reason. I cannot recommend anyone play this game with a keyboard and mouse. Since weapons lock on, there's really no point in using the mouse. Plus, doing some of the cool headshot mechanics are just really awkward on a keyboard. Actually, the whole combat experience in that game is awkward. There's no other way to put it. Just awkward. Plus, at least on the PC version, you get these really weird bugs when you're playing with a keyboard and mouse. Lara is also an awkward character in these games. I don't mean like socially she's awkward, it's more like she's unrelatable. She's always confident, never really shows any other emotion, so I can't empathize with her. Even when she almost dies, she doesn't seem to care. Alright, I'm wandering through the jungle and... Oh! Tiger fight! Wait, gotta turn on my jam. Okay, alright, here we go. I have a tiger, it's the eye of the tiger, the thrill of the fight, stop beating me up, rising up to the challenge of our rivals, the last, oh my gosh, there's another one, okay, and the last known survivor stalks his prey and then we stop. Not even close, baby. What the game does have going for it though is its cleanliness. Sure, it's not completely clean, but the mature content is very sparse and it isn't in your face all the time. So I would consider those games to be acceptable in my video game library. Now the newer ones are just the opposite. Remember all those bad things I said about the older games? Well, these ones got it right. The controls are smooth, Lara actually grabs things when you jump to them, the environments are user-friendly, climbable ledges are highlighted in white, there's actually a gripping story with relatable characters and moments, and the combat, oh baby, the combat is the bread and butter of this game. Seriously, that was pretty much the only reason why I kept playing this game. Remember how I said that combat is awkward in the old Tomb Raiders? Well, now the combat is like, new phone, who dis? The problem I have with it is that the game is riddled with mature content. Anytime you had to take down an enemy with a melee attack, it was just gruesome. And everybody just had to cuss all the time. Looking back, I'm actually sad that I kept playing these games. I mean, I really shouldn't have, so don't think that I'm condoning these games. Obviously, I'm not putting much gameplay of these games up because I promised clean content on this channel, but I wanted you guys to see my point. If the new Tomb Raiders were clean, nay, even cleaner, I would replay these games all the time. But because of the mature content and it's so in your face and frequent, I have to decline playing the game. That's how important it is to me for a game to have clean content. If I say that I wouldn't play a particular game, there's a good chance that the gameplay is actually really good, but inappropriate content is just excessive. Hopefully that gave you a better understanding of what I prefer in games. Now let's talk about games that are absolute trash. If you have any of the negative things that I mentioned in this video combined in your game, I'm sorry to say it, but your game is trash. So what do I like in games? Here's the list. Clean content, moderated cutscenes, real-time fluid combat, smooth controls, novice level controls, a good challenge but not a ridiculous difficulty, no stupid DLCs, PvE, local multiplayer, local co-op multiplayer, and a game that leaves me satisfied when the credits start rolling. Each item on the list is a video in its own right, so I think I'm going to make a video for each item on the list. Obviously, clean content and moderated cutscenes have been covered in this video, and we did a little bit of combat and controls, but I may make a video that expands on those two things. Tell me in the comment section which item on the list you want me to talk about next. Basically, the point of this video is to give you guys a basic understanding of what I dislike in a game that I disapprove of. What you really got to do with this video is decide for yourself what you want in games, and then stick to that. Don't support games that you don't like. I don't mean hate on the game and revile people who play it. I mean don't buy it. Stand by your standards. Nobody can tell you what games you have to play. There are tons of games out there that you can enjoy. Explore and discover what you like and then just play it. And just because I say a game is stupid or bad, it doesn't necessarily mean that it actually is. I'm just some guy on YouTube who likes video games. I'm no official critic, but I do have an opinion. And if your preferences agree with mine, then you can know that when I say something is bad, you probably won't like it either. Think of me as your guinea pig. If there is a specific game you're unsure of and you want my opinion, then ask me and I'll give you my opinion. Well guys, it looks like it's that time again. You know, the end of the video when I'm supposed to say something to end the video? Well, all I can say is... Ridley's in Smash Bros. Ultimate, baby!